everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to another segment of Lovely Layering with Ashley. Today I'm going to be creating this really pretty floral card. It was really simple to stamp and it took no time at all to layer and stamp out. And so I'd really like to show you how I was able to create this really beautiful scene really simply. For today's card, I'm going to be using an older set, which is this painted flower set here. It's got lots of smaller images that you can layer and then sort of incomplete outline images as well. A newer set, which is very similar to painted flowers, is this watercolor bloom set. Now I do have the coordinating dies for watercolor blooms, but not for painted flowers. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be creating a one layer design, and then I'll go ahead and pop my sentiment up, and that will just give it that little bit of dimension that it needs. So you can see that I've gotten my acrylic blocks and my ink colors ready, and I'm going to go ahead and trim down this piece of cardstock to 4 by 5 1/4, which is just smaller than an A2 size card. Just so you know, I will be going into detail for each ink color that I use for the different flowers in the design, but if you happen to miss a name or a color, don't worry, everything is linked in the description along with the exact ink color names as well. So I'm going ahead and I'm setting up the different layers I'll need for my first flower on my different acrylic blocks. For this first flower, I'm using hydrangea and Andromeda purple colors from the Altenew Crisp Dye Ink line. Hydrangea is the lighter of the two colors, so I'll be using that as my base color. All of these flowers and leaves have 2 layers, and they don't have to line up exact to create a really beautiful look. In fact, I am almost 100% sure that I did not line any of these up exactly correctly, but that is one of my favorite parts of this, or my favorite things about this painted flower set. It looks really artistic and it comes together really well, and you don't have to be precise with it at all. You can just have fun, which is a reason that I'm using acrylic blocks rather than my MISTI to stamp all of these. I showed you the watercolor blooms earlier, which is the newer stamp set that is very similar to this one, and that one is even a little easier to get right on the nose, but it's the same type of idea where it doesn't need to be exact to look really beautifully done. Each of the flowers in the set also has a partial outline stamp that goes with it. Now, for the most part, I'll be using black as this outline color, but for these purple flowers, I'm going to be embossing this outline with gold embossing powder. I just thought that, especially with the purple, the gold would be a really nice contrast, and I thought that the few gold pops throughout the design would really just bring that little bit of extra dimension. Since, like I said, this is going to be mostly a one layer design, I wanted to bring a little bit more interest into the card. So I went ahead and prepped that flower like you saw with a powder tool, and then I have gone ahead and used my heat tool to set the gold embossing powder, and you can see that that just looks so cool. And like I said, this is not, I promise you, this is not layered perfectly. I didn't look at a layering chart or a guide, and I just kind of went for it, and it looks really, really nice even when you don't take all the time in the world to make sure that it's lined up perfectly. This next flower uses the colors Frosty Pink and Coral Berry. This is going to be a really nice pop. Now you can see here on this partial outline that I'm using the jet black ink like I said. I'm only going to be embossing the partial outlines on those purple flowers, and I'm making sure to keep the purple flowers sort of few and far between because like I said, I wanted the gold to just be sort of subtle and pops around the card rather than take over the design. You may notice that I'm stamping an extra leaf on this flower, whereas it was attached last time. And there are 2 flowers in the set where the leaves are attached and 2 flowers where it is not attached. So when the leaves are attached, you do just need to be sure that you line up the leaves so that it will line up with the actual partial outline, or else it will be off center and it will look a little awkward. But with these singular flowers, it's much easier because you can place the leaf wherever you'd like on the flower. This final color that I'll be using is Warm Sunshine and Orange Cream. Warm Sunshine is my base layer color, and then Orange Cream is my second layer. And for the leaves throughout, I'm using Frayed Leaf and Forest Glades for the two colors for my leaves. So these are the three colors that I use throughout my card. I'm just going to go really quickly here through so that you can see how I set this up. I really wanted this to kind of look like the flowers were falling from the top left-hand side of my card down the center to the right hand, so sort of like flowing down. And I wanted it to look really organic, so I put this random purple and yellow flower there at the top, and I think that this just looks a little bit more believable than just having a very sort of straight diagonal line, and it just gives it a little bit more movement. There are a few embellishment stamps here which don't have solid stamps to color them in, and so I'm going to stamp these little bud stamps, I think they are, in jet black ink, and I'm going to do this randomly around. I'm making sure to keep this movement of sort of the top left to the bottom right, so I'm making sure to follow that line, but I'm not being too careful with my placement because I do want it to look organic. Now that I'm done, you can see that I've got lots of color and then a few of those gold pops, which I think just really help out the design. I've decided to use my Hello and Hugs stamp and die coordinating sets. And at first I decided to use a black cardstock for my sentiment, but then I thought about it and thought that it really made the design look a little bit more harsh. And then I thought about something I saw on a video by Kathy Zilski, where she used white cardstock for her sentiment die, even though it was on a white card front. And I thought that that was actually just the perfect way to soften this sentiment up. So I used a slightly grayer tone of white cardstock for my Hugs sentiment, and then used the accompanying Sending Lots of Love and sentiment, which comes in the coordinating stamp set. I hope that you have enjoyed the video and gotten some ideas on how you can use these really simple and looser layered images. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I will respond as soon as I can. And as always, all of the links to the products are in the description. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you again soon. Bye.